Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright? Episode 253. I haven't even said hello to Damonza yet this morning. Busy morning over here, watching the very end of Serbia, Australia, discussing what we're going to do for the show. Damonza, are you wearing the Aaron Rodgers shirt?
Yeah,
where did you get that shirt
today? So I've got an Egyptian
where did you
shirt on.
Where did you? Who got you that shirt?
Courtesy of the company, courtesy of the trip to Egypt, whichever one you want.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a beautiful shirt. I'm glad it looks great on you. I will keep the audience apprised at how Serbia Australia ends. It's in overtime. Australia's up 3. And we're going to do a bit of a different show today because there have been a lot's gone on with my full-time gig at FS1. And I also am going to, for a lot of this is, sometimes I have to kind of, we cross streams a bit on this show, but I have to be respectful to the fact that Damonza also works for FS1 out in California in the office. And so for when I'm talking network stuff and things that have been written in the last week, I'm going to ice Damonza out of the conversation because I just don't think it's a fair position to put him in. Because, I probably have a little more freedom. Freedom's the wrong word, but I probably feel a little more comfortable talking about some of these things because I've been with the company almost a decade. I have a forward-facing role. Damonza's been with the company for a couple years and doesn't. And so Damonza will be back with us momentarily. First, though, let's do what we normally do to start a show. What missed the cut? The U.S. has been eliminated from 3-on-3 basketball. Jim Harbaugh is saying, I didn't know about any University of Michigan violations. And Jalen Hurts promotes Olympic flag football in a pretty dope little promo video for the 2028 LA Olympic Games. But as we now get to where I want to start the show, which is a massive, massive moment in FS1 history happened last week as Skip had his final show. And on top of that, there was then a lot of articles written that I was featured in prominently, despite the fact that I talked to absolutely no one for them, about the future of the network. Before we get to any serious stuff, one kind of fun little anecdote that this audience in particular will really appreciate as Nikola Jokic hits a fadeaway turnaround 15-footer to put Serbia up 3 with 25 seconds left. It looks now more and more like it's going to be Serbia against the U.S. in the semifinals. The picture that one of those aggregators used when they took someone else's reporting and then they used the quote someone else wrote, but they wanted the tweets and retweets and all of it. The picture that they use of me with the caption about being the alleged future face of the network is me at the World Series of Poker at around 2 a.m, right after I attempted a bluff that did not go my way. And I essentially had been all but eliminated from this poker tournament. And I am just absolutely exhausted, despondent, and haggard. This is and it's a picture of me sitting there staring off into space. That is the picture that has been shared 20,000 times about being and the irony's not lost on me, the face of the network. When my face, which never looks that great, but really couldn't have looked worse than in that image. But we'll get to that part later. First, I want to talk about Skip. Because I sent out this tweet right after Skip announced that it was his final show. And I wrote a truly legendary run. Very few people in any industry can say they helped create and define an entire genre. Skip did that. Salute and good luck in whatever he does moving forward. And this was met not surprisingly, with a lot of, I don't know, anger or angst from a lot of folks, mostly LeBron James fans or supporters, saying, how can you say this? How can you feel this way? And so I want to explain that, and then I want to talk about Skip. So the reason I say that and feel that way is because I don't actually care that I think Skip was dead wrong for a decade about LeBron. I don't. That's not like, people are entitled to their own sports opinions. I don't think his was phony. I don't think he was pretending. I think, and I've said this before, and I think people wondered if I was only saying it because we were colleagues, but we're not colleagues anymore. And Serbia wins and Serbia advances, by the way. That I think Skip could pass a lie detector test on those takes. I think he truly believed it. I think they were bad takes. I think he was wrong about it. But as on the things that actually mattered, in my opinion, when race and sports crossed over and there were real discussions about real things, I felt Skip was consistently on the right side of things. Now, I understand he and Shannon got sideways at the end, and there was, famous blow-ups, and there were moments that really, really rubbed people the wrong way about how their interactions went. And I know some people ascribed some of that to malice or to there being a real racial component there. And I'm here to tell you that for whatever flaws you felt or things you liked or disliked about Skip Bayless on TV, that on the actual human personal things, I think he consistently was on the right side, not on the wrong side. If he was out there doing what I think is trolling on real non-sports important issues for clicks and likes and views, the way we have seen a lot of people, many, some of which used to prominently be in sports and now crossed over to Carnival Barker political stuff, I wouldn't respect him. But that's not how I ever felt. And so that's why, even though I disagreed with basically everything he ever said about my favorite athlete of all time, LeBron James, I could feel comfortable saying those things. And here's the other thing I want to say about Skip. Because nothing made me madder than when folks would say, oh, anyone could do what he did. If anyone could, more would have. Oh, it's easy. I'm telling you right now, that man was on television every day for the better part of 20 years, one of the absolute most important or noteworthy voices in sports, was paid accordingly. And I'm here to tell you, if that were easy, everyone would do it. And this dismissal of what he did over a career because folks didn't like the way he did it or the opinions he had, I think is ludicrous. There are so many folks who would saw off their left arm for that platform. And if it was as simple as, oh, I'm just going to say this guy who's awesome stinks, and that guy who stinks is awesome, and that's the path to riches and success and fame, then a lot of people would do it. Okay? And so it is not the style that I try to emulate. It is not what I think I do best. And I'm not even here to say, make a moral judgment on whether it's good or bad or indifferent. What I do know is it is something that for the better part of 20 years, the audience responded to, felt passionate about, and he was at near the top of the sports fan conversation until basically the last year. And that's also why, on a personal level, I'm bummed that he didn't do a victory lap. And this is something that I've talked to no one about. And this is, I have, for any of the FS1 bosses or executives or anyone who, credit to them, never mess with me about anything, never tell me, do talk about this, don't talk about this. I have true autonomy. And it's one of the reasons I love where I work. I think one of the reasons I have that is because I am very judicious about when I do and don't talk about family business, if you will. And because of that, I think I've built up quite a well of credibility and goodwill on that. So I'm going to dip into a bit of it here and discuss something that is just how I truly feel. And by the way, I want to say this on the front end. I don't believe Skip not having a victory lap or farewell shows or any of that was because he was not allowed that. I'm basically certain that's not why. It was because he didn't want to do it. Because I don't think that he views this as a farewell. He views it as, all right, I'm on to my next thing. And good luck, and that very well may be the case. I am saying that what I would have liked as a consumer of sports media is if a couple weeks ago he had said, guys, my final shows are coming up, and the last week, God dog it, we are doing the greatest hits. We are going to do the Tim Tebow show. And I'm going to sit here and pound the table and tell you why I was always right. And then we're going to do the Tom Brady show. And I'm going to sit here and pound the table and tell you why I was always right. And then we're going to do the LeBron show or shows. And I'm going to sit here and pound the table and tell you why I was always right. That's what and of course, I'm leaving it out. Then we're going to do the Dallas Cowboys show. And I'm going to sit here and pound the table and tell you why I was always right. I think, and I don't give a shit if kids who write about this stuff on the internet see this and rip me for it. I owe the audience nothing but honesty and my hard work, and I'm giving you both. I, as a consumer, would have loved it. I wanted that. And I had heard through the whispers that this past Friday was going to be his last show. But then I watched it, and I was certain everyone was wrong. So I'm like, well, he didn't. It was like, hold on a second. There's 90 seconds left, and they're talking about the U.S.-Puerto Rico game. This can't be it. Like, we're not going to get, but it was. And that was Skip's call, and he earned the right, by the way, to do whatever he wanted to do. And if he didn't want to look at it as a farewell, but a see you later, then I get why he didn't do it. I'm just saying, for me, Nick Wright, that's what I wanted. And, God dog it, man. Because I don't have I have a friendly relationship with Skip. He's always been gracious and kind to me and my wife when we've seen each other, but he's not like someone that I have a deep personal relationship with. We've been on the opposite sides of the country for 8 years. So it's not like someone that, he doesn't go to me for counsel. But if he did, I would have told him, do a victory lap, man. In this thing we do, you're one of the founding fathers. And people can say, oh, he did this, he made it bad, or he did this. Man, you can have your opinions. I'm not here to tell the audience to, eat your vegetables, they're good for you. I'm here to tell the audience, choose with your eyes, man. And for a very long time, the audience told you they vibe with what he was doing. And so I just thought he had earned that. And I know he would have been afforded that if he wanted to do it, but he chose not to. So that's his prerogative. But for me as a consumer, it was a bummer. And then I'm going to move to the future part of it. But this is a big moment, man. And here's the other thing that I'm going to say. That FS1 exists the way it does now because of Colin Cowherd and Skip Bayless taking a chance and coming over and giving our network credibility. And then the third person who would be on that credit list would be Shannon, because of what Shannon and Skip built together. But it took Colin and Skip taking a leap and taking a chance, and then Shannon and Skip had this amazing partnership for years that obviously at the end went sideways a bit. I think that's fair to say. But you sit across the table from someone 5 days a week, 230 times a year for 2.5 hours, where on the promo pictures you guys are in boxing gloves, where the whole conceit of the show is we are doing battle, and you see if you think that can ever sustain for longer than Skip and Shannon did. You can say, well, Tony and Mike have done it for 20 years. Tony and Mike, a lot of things there. A, they're not usually across the table from each other. They're in different studios often. B, it's a 30-minute show. And C, they're not pugilists. They're very often playing jazz. They're agreeing with each other, occasionally disagreeing. And listen, I think Tony and Mike, what they've done is the greatest partnership in the history of sports media, aside from maybe Mike and the Mad Dog. Mike and the Mad Dog, by the way, ended similar to Skip and Shannon. It is very, very, very difficult to be like, okay, here's the idea. You two, we're going to find things you disagree on. That will be almost all we talk about. You both have to be certain you're correct and just do that every single day for years and years and years, and not at some point have it be like, okay, I can't do this anymore. That happens. So I don't look at how that ended as a black mark. I just look at it as things end. And so I am incredibly grateful that Skip took the chance he did, that Colin took the chance he did, and then both of those people allowed me, when nobody knew who I was outside of Kansas City and Houston, to go on their platforms and very often tell them why they were wrong about stuff and I was right. And now, smash cut to now, Skip leaves, and there's all these articles written. Nick Wright, the new face of FS1. All right, so this is where I am going to just be totally honest with you guys. And I, again, hope you take my word for it. Because a lot of you guys have heard me say that my career goals, the one career goal, I've added a few as of late. Like, I'd like to at one point be a part of an Olympics broadcast, even though I have a good friend who regularly was a part of the Olympics broadcast, and he was like, don't do it. Miserable work. But I would like to be, there's other things I've added as the career went on, But the thing that was there the day I walked out of Syracuse that is still there that I have not yet achieved is, as I have described, Family Feud style, ask 100 people on the street who's the biggest or the best sports talk guy in the country. I want to win that poll. And I'm not there yet. The Skip was on the top of that at one point. Colin's been on the top of that. You know, Stephen A's obviously been on the top of that. We go back further. Dan Patrick. Like, there's other people, and I don't even want to mention everyone who've been on the top of that. I've never been on the top of that. I now feel like I'm in a place where I would get votes. I would show up. Again, if it's Family Feud, and there were like 7 little blanks, you know, maybe it says Nick Wright, and, you know, there's 4 people voted for you get a few points, but I'm not there yet. So I think people see Face of the Network, and they're like, man, Nick, this is what you want. And I'm here to tell you, yeah, in theory, of course it's what I want. And I'm also here to tell you it is absolutely, unequivocally inaccurate to say it now. The face of FS1 is Colin Cowherd. And he has been for some time. And that is undeniable. And right now, the reason I get uncomfortable with folks, I get doubly uncomfortable with folks putting me in that doubly uncomfortable. I get for 2 reasons. One is because it's Colin. The other is I am not right now trying to be that. Because right now, I'm not a solo act and don't want to be. Right now, I am part of a team. And I get oddly emotional talking about this. I don't know why, but just bear with me. So if those articles had said, First Things First is now positioned to be the best show on the network, or the biggest, whatever, I would take that. I would. That is what I want. That is what we attempt to do every day. But positioning it as Nick Wright is so wildly, I think, disrespectful to Wilds and Brew that it makes me uncomfortable. First Things First has existed. The 7-year anniversary of it is in 28 days. 7 years that show's been on the air. Nick Wright's been a part of it all 7. Okay? From day one to right now, I've done probably that show. If we do 230 a year, 7 times 230 is 1610. If we've done 1,610 shows, I've done probably 1,590 of them. I think there's probably been 20 shows total that the show's been on the air and I haven't been there. And that show was only beloved, super popular, successful, and part of the zeitgeist once Wilds and Brew got there with me. That's what the show is. And I understand, I am aware enough to know that because I've been there the longest and because I kind of have the spiciest takes, or I'm the most vocal of the opinionists, that, I'm on the poster, I'm in the middle. Like, I get that piece of it. I'm not trying to be fake humble. I understand that. And I take pride in that. And I work my ass off for it. But that is not Nick Wright's show. That's our show. Colin, I'm comfortable saying, is Colin's show because it's called The Herd with Colin Cowherd. It's his show. And Colin, it is the cornerstone of the network. And so I just thought those articles were prematurely disrespectful to him, and I didn't like it. And I also thought they were dismissive of Wilds and Brew. And I would say, for anyone who wrote these things, most of you guys have my cell phone number. Now I understand historically I never talk to anybody, but you can still ask. Maybe I'll surprise you. Maybe I'll give a quote saying exactly this. Now, maybe I'll leave you on red as I have for years, and I understand that's probably why people in sports media reporting don't reach out to me anymore, because I don't ever give comments. I don't talk about it. I feel like it's a dangerous game to play. But maybe I would. I don't know. I'm doing it here now, and I tagged all those folks in the tweet promoting the show because I wanted them to hear this. And everything I've said these last 25 minutes, I will stand by entirely. And if folks want to be mad at me about the fact that I didn't take some celebratory thing about Skip because he and I disagree vehemently about LeBron James, then that's fine. You don't get me. That's totally fine. And if some of my other colleagues, not at the network, friends and colleagues who think I'm too deferential to Colin, feel that way, that's your prerogative. That's fine. It's not how I feel. I am very aware of the supercharge that my career was given by Colin believing in me, and that is a type of blood loyalty that I will always be grateful for and never be dismissive of, ever. And lastly, I am still trying to be the answer to those Family Feud style questions. I am closer now than I ever have been. And that is because first things first is cooking. And first things first is cooking because me, Wilds, and Brew love each other, work great together, and fill in each other's blanks like a good marriage. Honest to God, where I am weak, Wilds is strong. Where Wilds is weak, I'm strong. Where Brew's, like, that is how the Brew doesn't have really too many weaknesses aside from the fact that he constantly disagrees, except for his Michael Jordan, blind spot. But Brew gives our show a credibility and an authority that it wouldn't be there without him. And it's great to work with a guy who's literally never been in a bad mood. As far as I can tell, a single day of his life, I've never seen anyone like him. Ever. And so, do I want that show to be the biggest, best, number one show on the network? You're goddamn right. Will that be a validation of me personally? No. It's a validation of what we're doing collectively. And that's like I had so many people send me those tweets and those articles, and each time I felt a little more uncomfortable about it. So, spent 30 minutes here discussing it. Now, take a break and talk about what really matters, which is Patrick Mahomes not being the number one football player in the NFL, because everyone's lists except for mine are just terrible. We'll do that next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? Damonza, sorry to ice you out there for the beginning of that. For the beginning of that, I figured you wouldn't mind. Before we get to the rest of the program in the NFL Top 100, let me remind you guys, if you're looking for your next favorite tequila, Terramana is a premium small batch tequila founded by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Got some right here. Each bottle of Terramana is meticulously crafted from 100% fully mature agave, slow roasted in traditional brick ovens, and distilled in handmade copper pot stills. The Terramana today in the People's Margarita, try Terramana today in the People's Margarita, a deliciously refreshing drink made with Terramana Blanco, lime, agave, and pineapple juice. Terramana is also perfect when pairing with is also the perfect pairing when inviting friends and family around to watch sports and celebrate the big games together. For more information, visit Terramana.com and follow on social at Terramana. That's at Teremana. You must be 21 years or older, of course. Please enjoy responsibly. Terramana, small batch tequila, 40% alcohol by volume, imported by Seatbuck Spirits, White Plains, New York. That's just about 30 minutes north of here. All right, Damonza, the other thing that happened this weekend that everyone knew I was going to at some point respond to was the NFL Top 100 list, which is just a total and complete debacle. So let's discuss it.
Yeah, so the NFL Top 100 came out. Patrick Mahomes is in the top 10, but he obviously wasn't number one. That was Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I think they had Travis Kelce. Patrick Mahomes at 4. Sorry about that. Should Mahomes take this personally and use it as bulletin board material or?
Well, yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's not. This isn't like Michael Jordan having to create fake stuff to be motivated about. This is a Patrick Mahomes, and people are like, "Oh, it was done before the playoffs started." I don't care. It doesn't matter. So you mean it was done while he was the defending MVP and the defending Super Bowl MVP and the defending champion? That's when the voting was done? And that's when folks said that Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback. Tyreek Hill, who used to be on the Chiefs traded him away, and when the voting was done, had not lost a playoff game since he was gone, and since the voting was done, won four more playoff games, and Christian McCaffrey are all better than him. You have a funny look on your face here, Damonza. Do you think there is any point in last year's football calendar where if you were asked who's the best player in the NFL, you wouldn't have said Patrick Mahomes?
I think that you've instilled a little bias on me, but it is like a little. It's a snub. Like either way you look at it, they snubbed him all the way at 4. Still, like not even number 2 or anything like that, but number 4 is pretty crazy.
And behind another quarterback.
Yeah.
But listen, I understand that Lamar had a wonderful year until, of course, he played Patrick in the playoffs and for some reason short-circuited a bit. I get that, and I understand this voting was done before that. But at no point should someone have been able to say, at no point in the last 2 years, has it been a credible opinion that anyone other than that guy is the best player in the league. And I said this on the show, and who was it? Mangini and Wilds disagreed. Brew agreed. But if somehow the Chiefs were offered Lamar, Tyreek, and Christian McCaffrey for Patrick Mahomes, they say no. And Wilds and Mangini were like, it'd be one hell of a team. I'm like, well, how much better of a team can you be than the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion? Like, honest to God. And so the part of it that's really galling is not being the number one quarterback. So, like, you can ask the follow-up and I'll elaborate on that, and we'll get to it.
Yeah, so if Mahomes is number one, how would you feel about Tyreek Hill being number 2?
I'd be okay with that. If they simply, I'd be okay with that. I don't know that I think, and this is not because Tyreek told me to go cry on set. Like, I like Tyreek. I don't mind that he was feeling himself on this. That's fine. That's a good Photoshop. I do like that of me crying, Tyreek consoling me. Here's the thing. I don't think saying Tyreek is the best non-quarterback in football is a bad opinion. I don't know that I agree with it. I think that if I had to choose one receiver, I think I'm picking Justin Jefferson. It's very close, and like I said, it's not like a disqualifying opinion like Lamar over Mahomes is. But I think Justin Jefferson has played 60 career football games and has 5,900 career yards. Justin Jefferson has never played with a great quarterback and played half of last year with a bad quarterback. He's played with, he has had Tua-level quarterbacking, I think, in Kirk Cousins most of his career. Tyreek obviously had Tua, but then previous to that had Mahomes for 4 years, and previous to that had Alex Smith, who was fine. Alex Smith kind of Tua-level, Kirk Cousins level. And so I thought Justin Jefferson was way too far down the list. I don't think there's a big gap between him and Tyreek. And this is where folks can call me a homer, but I don't really care. If the question is non-quarterbacks, you can have any one player for a playoff run, who are you taking? My answer to that question is Travis Kelce. Flatly. I think he is, in the biggest spots, the most unguardable, dynamic player in the league. And I think last year was evidence of it when last year he was injured at the beginning of the year, double teamed more than he'd ever been throughout his entire career, seemed a step or two slower, hampered, didn't have the 1,000 yards for the first time in almost a decade, and then in the postseason did the following. 7 catches, I think all in the first half against Miami in a blowout. Against Buffalo, 2 touchdowns. Against Baltimore, with Kyle Hamilton guarding him, potentially the best safety in the league, 11 catches on 11 targets. And then in the Super Bowl, 9 catches on 10 targets, including final drive of regulation, 3rd down, have to get in field goal range, ran the fastest he had run in any game all year to make it a chip shot field goal. In those playoffs, he had 32 catches on 36 targets. And if you remove the game where it was -30, he had 25 catches on 27 targets for 3 touchdowns. And so I still would rather have Travis in a big spot than anybody else. As far as over the course of a season, you want to say Tyreek, that's fine. I think I'd probably go Justin Jefferson. But it's just the Mahomes piece of it is just so disqualifying for everybody that I can't can't take it seriously. I mean, let me say one other thing before we do the last follow-up. It was so obvious to everyone Mahomes was going to be number 1 that if you remember, they asked Jamar Chase about number 1, and he said, I refuse to say that guy's name. Spoiler alert, folks. That's not because he's not saying Tyreek Hill's name. He didn't say, I won't say his name, number 1, Joe Burrow. It's because he thought it was so obvious that Patrick Mahomes was going to be number 1. What are you laughing about?
No, it is a weird thing. But the producer's saying maybe there's a little receiver beef between the two. But yeah.
No, it was good. No, because he didn't say himself. He said Joe Burrow. It was clear he was talking Patrick Mahomes.
Which is also weird.
All right,
the players take place with the voting, and that's a player right there saying that it's Patrick.
Well, it doesn't mean he voted him number one. He
Right.
probably voted Burrow number one. He just thought it was going to be Patrick. All right, so
take a
go
look
ahead.
at the new Tyreek King of the Hill, the King of the Tyreek Hill. Sorry.
It's just a bunch of Mahomeses on King of the Hill. No, that's pretty good. All right, I like it. All right, let's move on.
All right, so last year, Puka Nacua and Jordan Addison and your guy Rashee Rice all became household names as rookies. This year, we got Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. They're all reportedly off to hot starts at camp. Pick one of these receivers to stand out the most this year.
Well, listen, I think Marvin Harrison's going to be the best. And while I think Odunze has the best quarterback in Caleb, I think Odunze with DJ Moore there and Keenan Allen there, I don't think Odunze is going to get the volume of targets that Neighbors or Harrison will. Neighbors, to me, is just disqualified by the fact he's either going to have Daniel Jones or Drew Lock firing passes out of bounds. And so, to me, it's very, very obvious that it's Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought he was the best college receiver we had, arguably, since Larry Fitzgerald. That might be a step strong, but it really felt like that watching him. Thoroughly dominant multiple years. He's with a real quarterback in Kyler. Again, I have my skepticism on Kyler as a leader and some other things, but Kyler, when healthy, is certainly better than Daniel Jones is, and he's not going to have to share targets the way Rome Odunze is. So Marvin Harrison Jr., to me, is far and away going to have the best numbers of any of those three rookie receivers. Now, they didn't include Xavier Worthy, who it sure seems like Mahomes is really prioritizing getting in the flow of things with the Chiefs offense. Now, I worry about Xavier Worthy's build, and I'm worried about how thin and skinny he is, but the one thing that can make you feel a little bit better about that is Andy did have Deshaun Jackson, who's very, very similar build, and Andy had Deshaun Jackson cooking because of that raw speed. All right, let's play a game now.
All right, so it's time to play an NFL preview edition of Likely, Maybe, What If. I'll give you a category, and you will give us three possible answers, each a bit more far-fetched than the last one. So the first one we got, last year, Dak Prescott led the NFL with 36 passing touchdowns, the lowest mark since 2019. Who leads the league this year? The league leader in touchdown passes is Likely, Maybe, What If?
Likely, it's likely. Oh, really? Oh, okay, that's interesting. It's likely Mahomes. It doesn't look like Rashee is going to be suspended this year, or I don't think he's going to be suspended this year. By the way, the link to the odds, okay, here it is. Now I've got it. Mahomes is plus 650. So I think it is likely Mahomes. Maybe it's C.J. Stroud.
Oh, dang.
With those three receivers. Oh, that was it. No, I think he's more likely than.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. He's got the third best odds, so I don't. You know what I mean? I don't think that is, that is an outrageous one. I just lost.
What if it's Josh Allen?
Hold on. I don't think he's gonna have the weapons. My what if? I mean, you know who my what if's gonna be. My what if is Caleb.
Right. Oh, Caleb.
Caleb's just out there cooking, man. That Bears defense, not quite as good as people hoped, maybe. He's in some shootouts. He's got three legitimate receivers. They really try, they do that, let him throw near the goal line to juice the numbers. So it's likely Mahomes, maybe Stroud. What if Caleb? All right, next.
Okay, so we talked about Tyreek being the number one player in the NFL top 100. Aside from Mahomes, who has the best chance to be that guy next year? Next year's number one is likely, maybe, what if?
Okay, so we're just removing Mahomes entirely. So if we're removing Mahomes entirely, I got to think on this one for a second. I think it's probably too early for CJ. I I don't think people are going to call him. And also, hold on. Now that I know the voting takes place before the playoffs, it actually changes, you know what I mean, how you've got to think about this. Because it's not as if someone can just go on a sick postseason run and change it. So I'm going to say likely Christian McCaffrey. Especially if the Niners trade Ayuk, which I think they're going to do. He's going to have even a heavier workload, crazy numbers. So I think it is likely Christian McCaffrey. Maybe it's Josh Allen. If Josh has this,
with the lack of weapons in there.
Exactly right. If he's running the ball like he did last year, turning that kind of makeshift receiving core into something and if this voting happens in December, yet to have his inevitable, playoff defeat at the hands of Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to have a good year.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I listen, I think that the pendulum has swung in some ways too far in the skepticism of the Bills. Listen, everyone's like, oh, they lost Diggs. Diggs was not very good for them the final dozen games of last year. The what if that I'm going to throw on there is Micah Parsons. What if Micah has he has in his career, he has finished second, third in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He is going to be used differently now in this Mike Zimmer system. What if Micah just has a start to finish dominant campaign? That to me is an interesting what if. Go ahead.
Offseason. Micah Parsons.
He's had a very interesting offseason. No, that's true. All right, go ahead.
Every year, at least one team goes from last in their division to winning it to winning it a year later. Sorry. Last year was Houston. Who would it be this year? Likely the team that will go from worst to first is likely maybe what if.
All right, so the likely one is very, very easy. The maybe one is also very easy to me as well. The likely one is Cincinnati. They were in last place because their quarterback got hurt. So I'll say the Bengals. The maybe one is also easy because this team tied for last in their division, just added Caleb Williams. It's the Chicago Bears. The what if is the trickiest one because there are not good options. The other 6 teams that we are talking about are the New England Patriots. You can essentially just eliminate them. The Tennessee Titans, the Los Angeles Chargers, who I think should be better this year, but Herbert's plantar fascia injury concerns me. And by the way, they're in a division with the Chiefs. Eliminate them. The Washington Commanders, who are starting a rookie quarterback, and I don't love that offensive line at all. The Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. The what if
I think you got to go Titans.
I'm going to go with is the Titans.
Yeah.
That's correct. And the recipe there would be CJ Stroud, year 2 regression. The Prince still has this fumbling problem. And much like last year, it only takes 10 wins to win the division. And somehow Will Levis, has an excellent year, the new coaching staff. That's again, I don't buy it, but that's the one that is the most plausible if I have to go 3 deep on that topic. Do we have another one, Damonza?
Yeah, we got Josh Allen has nearly escaped being the league leader in interceptions the past 3 years, and with Khalil Shakir currently slotted as the team's number 1 wide receiver, this could be the year he breaks through. This year, Josh Allen will likely, maybe, but what if?
Likely win the AFC East and lose in the divisional round. So that's what they do every year. Maybe has a start to finish dominant campaign and wins that MVP that the media has so desperately been wanting to give him for years. And then the what if is what if he actually does. No, that's kind of more the MVP piece of it. I guess what if would be what if this is the year he finally breaks through in the postseason and goes on a real run. I can't dismiss it. Again, I don't think Josh Allen's going to lose to Mahomes and Burrow in the playoffs every year of his career. At some point, you know what I mean? They're going to catch fire. And he's too talented of a player. I don't think Josh Allen's not talented. I just think he's been prematurely anointed and he gets held to a different standard than every other quarterback in football. But at some point, he'll do it. And at some point, folks will be able to say, see, we knew he would do it. And then that's fine. I just need to see it to believe it. All right, we answer some of your listener questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright, Damonza? Let's answer some listener questions.
Udav Bardwaj said, Nick, what if Serbia beats Team USA in Olympics?
So, listen, we talked about this on TV, maybe also on this show. I don't like Serbia's chances. However, one thing that made me nervous about the U.S. winning gold, depending on how the bracket fell, and it fell exactly the way I was a little anxious about, was might have to beat Serbia 3 times. Played him in the exhibition, played him in the group stage, and now you got to play him in the semis, assuming the U.S. beats Brazil today, which they should. And you do wonder if Serbia was, holding things back or had things prepped, whatever it is. It shouldn't matter. Serbia's team has been very unimpressive to me, except for Joker. And, it just took everything Joker had for them to beat Australia. But beating them 3 times, can be a tough putt. So, I guess the listener's probably implying, will it be an indictment or referendum on LeBron? Potentially. Flip side, galaxy brain to this. After Jokic had beaten LeBron and AD like 9 straight times, all of a sudden, LeBron and AD have beaten Jokic 3 of the last 4 times they've played. Can get to 4 out of 5. Flip that before we get to next season. All right, next.
Dan asked France or Canada. Oh, was that an extension of the first question?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, who I think's going to win, France or Canada later today? I think Canada's going to win. I think Canada's the second best team in the tournament. Next.
All right, Austin Tapp asked, question for Nick. If you had to play an odd Olympic event, what would it be? Example, sailing, dressage, rowing.
Okay, so I don't know if this counts as odd, but cycling. The lady that won the gold in cycling just picked it up a few years ago. Graduated Harvard, took a cycling class in Central Park, wasn't even supposed to compete in the final. Someone had to scratch for her to be a replacement, and she won it by 2 minutes. And I'm such an elite Peloton athlete that I feel like I could maybe compete in that. I don't know that a cycling counts. I'm the top 0.1% almost every. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm an elite Peloton athlete. So I don't know if I'm such an elite Peloton athlete that during the pandemic, when I would post my screenshot scores, folks said I was that my bike needed to be recalibrated or that I was cheating, that I was posting someone else's scores. So I don't know if that counts as odd enough. You know what I mean? Is cycling really an odd Olympic sport? I think rowing. You just get on the right team. I think rowing, I could do it. I was out there kayaking in Turks with your little sister. She wasn't helping at all. I was cooking. So yeah, I think that I mean the jet ski is the bad incident I had. The kayaking was fine. All right, let's go to the next question.
Eric Allen asks, would you take Caleb, who you love, Justin Jefferson, and Trent Williams all for Mahomes? Your O-line will be awesome. You'd have JJ and Kelsey to throw to, and the guy who you think will be the second best quarterback.
No, I wouldn't. No. There is not a trade where you can get equal value for Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't exist. And considering the fact I think he's just going to keep winning Super Bowls, I'm not going to change anything. No. So no, I wouldn't. And you got to pay all those guys. Like you couldn't even have the rest of your team.
Yeah. Is the first round
pick off the table? Yeah, there's no trade for Patrick Mahomes that works for the Chiefs. There isn't one. Next.
-4-2 asks, would you not accept CMC at number 1 and Mahomes at number 2? He did carry Purdy to the Super Bowl.
Well, listen, I would find that less galling than having another quarterback ahead of Mahomes. But no, obviously Mahomes should be number 1. All right, next.
Scott Frazier, Nick, what is the one thing that can make Caleb not be successful this year?
If the left side of the Bears' offensive line is a disaster.
Okay.
I don't think it will be, but that's what the answer would be. All right, what's the last thing?
DeLone just dropped his top 5 quarterbacks. Got to show a Photoshop.
Oh, we got a Photoshop? Oh, this is an old Making the Band Chappelle show. I mean, you have to be exactly my age to really appreciate this Dylon thing. I mean, it's pretty good. So this is why, if you're watching on YouTube, you get the little extra credit. All right, very curious to see what is or is not aggregated from today's show. That should be fun. Great job, everybody. I'll see you guys on Thursday. See you on Colin's show in about 90 minutes. And see you on First Things First around 3 o'clock. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor. Go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.